My phone buzzed 19 times in 2 hours. I counted later, sitting on a porch swing 300 miles from where the chaos was happening. My daughter thought the climbing number on my screen was funny. I was watching my son chase a hermit crab across wet sand on Folly Beach, and for the first time in years, none of those calls mattered to me. To understand why I wasn't shaking, you need to know how we got there. Welcome back to Calm Drama Stories. I'm Paige, 36, a dental hygienist outside Charlotte, and this is the story of how my sister decided my kids weren't welcome on the family vacation, and what happened when I'd already built one of my own that nobody could touch. If you've ever been quietly written out of something you helped pay for, drop a comment, because this one gets specific. I worked at a dental office on Park Avenue, $51,000 a year, steady hours, the kind of job that pays the mortgage on time every month. My apartment was 9 minutes from the office, 11 from my daughter Maya's school. Maya was 9. My son Eli was 4. Their father moved out of state when Eli was 2 and sends a check most months, which is more than some fathers manage. But he isn't the point of this story. Every morning, I was up at 5:45, lunch is packed, drop off, clock in by 7:30, pick up by 5:20, dinner, bath, bed, repeat. I kept a budget app, color-coded by priority, and paid myself first into a vacation fund, $125 a month, automatic, untouched. I was careful with money the way some people are careful with knives, because I'd seen what happened when you weren't. My father taught me that carefulness. 5 years ago, he sat in his recliner, oxygen tube taped under his nose, and told me where the paperwork was. Walter Reyes, retired electrician, 42 years running wire through other people's walls. I was 31 then. My sister Renata was 35. He looked at me, not her. "Paige, you handle the numbers when I'm gone," he said. "Keep your mother steady. That's the only job." Renata waited until we were in the driveway before she spoke. Must be nice being the favorite. I didn't answer, because we both knew why. Renata had overdrawn her account 4 times that year and borrowed $3,000 from our father without ever paying it back. My father died 11 months later. The life insurance paid out $72,000. I did exactly what he asked. Funeral costs, $11,000. A new roof on my mother's house, $9,000. Medical bills he'd quietly carried, $14,000. What remained, $38,000, I put almost entirely into an account in my mother's name, untouchable, emergency only. Renata contributed nothing, and when I mentioned it once, she said she had her own family to think about, as if I didn't. What Renata did have was leverage, her 2 kids, Sophie and Marcus. "If you keep inviting Paige's kids around, I won't bring mine," she told our mother once, casually, like she was discussing the weather. My mother folded, the way she usually did. Visits with my kids got rationed down to almost nothing. I adjusted around it, the way I'd been adjusting around Renata my whole life. Every July since I was 8, our family went to the same stretch of South Carolina coast. When my father died, I kept booking it myself. Last summer, I paid $1,900 of the $2,200 total. Renata sent $400, 2 months late. My mother paid nothing. I told myself it was for the kids, which is what you tell yourself when you're the only one holding the bill. I had a separate savings account just for this, fed automatically every month. By spring, it held just over $2,200. Clean, earmarked, mine. This year, Renata had a different plan. It started in March in a driveway, with her ex-husband Derek leaning against his truck during a custody handoff. Derek had asked me for a loan the previous fall to expand his side business. I'd said no, kindly once. He hadn't let it go. "Your mom still got Paige's card as a backup, doesn't she?" he said to Renata. She hesitated 3 seconds, I was told later, before answering. "She owes this family," Renata said. Derek smiled and got in his truck. I was at home that evening helping Maya with spelling, completely unaware that a plan had already been set in motion with my name attached to it. Sophie's 11th birthday, my mother's backyard, a banner that had clearly been used more than once. The party went fine until Renata pulled me into the kitchen. "We're doing the beach trip differently this year," she said. "Just me, Mom, and my kids. Your kids aren't invited." I looked past her into the living room. My mother stood holding my emergency debit card between 2 fingers, the one I'd left years earlier strictly for gas money or a doctor visit. "Why do you have that?" I asked. She said she needed it for the booking. I nodded once, said keep it, called my kids, and left without raising my voice. That night, after both kids were asleep, I opened my banking app. I'd noticed small withdrawals over the past 2 months, totaling around $260. My mother had explained the first as using the wrong card by accident. I didn't accept it anymore. The next morning, I called the bank to remove her as an authorized user. They told me it required a notarized request, 7 to 10 business days. I didn't have that kind of patience. So I drove to a different bank, opened a fresh account, and transferred everything out, 2,200 from the vacation fund, the rest from checking. The old account sat there afterward with $11 in it and a debit card resting in my mother's hand like it still meant something. I told no one. 2 weeks later, Sunday dinner. Renata pulled out her phone and turned the screen toward our mother. A resort outside Myrtle Beach, $2,900 total. My mother smiled and said it looked beautiful. Renata looked at me, somewhere between pity and satisfaction. "You couldn't afford this anyway," she said, laughing once. My son Eli looked up and asked if we were going to the beach too. The table went quiet. "We're having our own trip, buddy," I said, squeezing his shoulder. I didn't argue with Renata. I washed the dishes, stacked them the way my mother liked, and took my kids home. That night, I searched quiet beach towns South Carolina and found Edisto Island, a place my father used to mention, but we never went. A small inn, $79 a night, $316 for 4 nights. I ran the rest of the numbers, gas, groceries, beach gear, total just under $900. My new account had 2,200. I booked it immediately and wrote one word on a sticky note for the fridge. Beach. No dates, no destination, because I knew exactly how information traveled in my family. I pieced together the rest of Renata's plan weeks later, from my mother and from a family friend named Carol. Renata had booked the resort in early April, putting $900 down on her own credit card, with $2,000 due 3 days before check-in, expecting that balance to land on my old card. "Paige owes us for years of sitting on Dad's money," she told our mother. My mother hesitated. "Are you sure that's right?" she asked. "She left the card with you," Renata said. "That's permission enough." It wasn't permission. It was gas money, not a blank check. But my mother didn't push back, and Renata had already decided what the silence meant. 3 days before check-in, the resort attempted the remaining charge. Declined, insufficient funds. Renata called our mother in a panic. "Try the card at an ATM," she said. My mother drove to the bank, checked the balance, $11. Renata maxed out her own credit card, borrowed $600 from our mother's emergency savings without my knowledge, and was still $1,200 short with the clock running out. She called me twice that evening. I was giving Eli a bath and let both calls go to voicemail. A text followed. "I know you moved your money. We need to talk." I set the phone face down and finished his bedtime story. The next evening, she showed up at my door, mascara smudged. "What did you do with the money?" she demanded. "It's in my account," I said evenly. "Just not the one you were planning to drain." "We need that money. The kids are counting on it," she said. "Your kids," I corrected, "not mine. You made that clear at Sophie's birthday." She softened her voice. "I'm sorry. Can you help? Just this once." "You told my daughter she wasn't real family," I said. "We're done here." I closed the door and turned the deadbolt, loud enough for her to hear it click. We left for Edisto 2 mornings later before sunrise. By noon, we were checked in. By 1, Maya was ankle-deep in the surf, and Eli had started what he called his crab hotel in the wet sand. I sat on the blanket, sun warm on my arms, and felt something settle in my chest that had been unsettled for years. My phone began ringing at 2:15. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. And again. 19 times over the next 2 hours while Eli looked for dolphins and settled happily for a school of minnows instead. I wasn't ignoring them to make a point. I simply had something more important happening in front of me than anything happening in a parking lot 4 hours north. That parking lot, Carol told me later, held my sister screaming at a front desk clerk while my mother sat on a concrete bench in the heat, her own grandchildren watching from the back seat with the doors open. No room, deposit gone, credit maxed. "Who's paying for this?" my mother asked quietly. Renata said Paige was supposed to. My mother, for maybe the first time in years, didn't let that slide. "I asked her," she said. "She said no. You told me she'd never notice." On the drive home, Sophie opened Instagram in the back seat and turned the phone toward her grandmother. A photo I'd posted an hour earlier. Maya and Eli beside a sandcastle, captioned "Beach Day with my favorites." My mother stared at it without a word. 40 minutes later, Marcus asked why he couldn't have gone with his cousins. Nobody answered him because there wasn't an answer that didn't implicate the person driving. That evening on the beach, sky turning copper, then deep purple, I finally listened to my mother's voicemail. The trip fell apart. We drove all that way for nothing. Please call me back. I didn't call back that night. Some conversations need to wait until both people are actually ready to have them. We came home that Sunday, sunburned and happy. 2 days later, my mother called. I want to apologize, she said. I shouldn't have let Renata decide things for both of us. And the card? I asked. I didn't know she'd try to charge that much, she said. But you knew she'd try something, I said. Silence answered that, honestly enough. Mom, I love you, but from now on, my finances are mine. No cards at your house, no shared accounts, no emergency access. You're welcome to see Maya and Eli any weekend, but I'm done funding plans I'm not part of. She said okay quietly, maybe understanding it for the first time. Renata didn't call for 3 weeks. I saw her at a neighborhood cookout. We made eye contact across the yard. Hers slid away first. Sophie ran over and asked if Maya could come play, completely unbothered by whatever her mother had said about real family. Of course, sweetie, anytime, I told her. The girls disappeared toward the swing set, and Renata left early without a word to me. If someone needs access to your bank account to keep you inside the family, you were never really in the family. You were just funding a seat at the table, a father's quiet trust, a sister's plan that depended on me never noticing, and a sandcastle 4 hours away from where it all fell apart. If you've ever quietly moved your money to move on, or said no to someone who thought your kindness came with no expiration date, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Comment your own story below, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.